Welcome to yet another FakeMews exclusive. Today we're going to be talking about tournament organization. That is right, and specifically tournament structures. This is the subject that you were really excited when you woke up in the morning and you wanted to talk about, I am 100% sure. But we're going to be talking about this because the two of the biggest organizations in terms of organizing GU tournaments gets everything wrong. I'm talking about GU Stakes and Community Gaming. And I'm going to be talking about what both of them are doing wrong and why what both of them is doing is absolutely incorrect in this video. First, we're going to go ahead and dive into the GU Stakes situation. So if you're unfamiliar with GU Stakes, I'll go ahead and explain it to those who are unfamiliar with it in this video. So GU Stakes is a tournament hosting platform designed to run God's Unchained events. So you would assume that if it's a tournament hosting platform that they would be knowledgeable about basic tournament structures. This, of course, is going to be disproven in this video. This is also a platform that is mostly known throughout the GU community of being a headache to enter tournaments. So for instance, you have to connect a wallet, and then you have to connect to a network, and then you have to reload the page, and then it crashes on you. The UI for GU Stakes has been very frustrating for me personally, and for others in the space as well. But anyways, they are attempting to actually put in hard work within the GU community and hosting God's Unchained tournament events, and I keep playing in them anyways. But what has been going on recently is they have now going to be running the Fight for Lysander event, right? So we're just now starting event number 4. That they believe the first event was randomly seeded, and events 2 and 3 were like seeded by time zone. So basically, when it's seeded by time zone, you just throw all the infinite mana and TST people onto one side of the bracket, and then you're like, hey, we've got good content in the early rounds. That's actually what happened, even though not all of us are in the same time zone. But anyways, that is a moot point. Let's get into the brass tacks. Event number 4, they are saying that they have the perfect seeding formula. Let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit closer. When you're seeding a tournament, there's a lot of different ways to structure it. Some tournaments have Stack and Saints enter the back corner of a dungeon and labor hours on their computer to come up with a very precise formula. Other tournaments just have a dictator determine the seeds. And most tournaments hit randomized seed. However, GU Stakes went with a fourth option, an option that I did not know exists. They found an option worse than all three, objectively speaking. They are running seeded tournaments now where they organize the bracket incorrectly. And I know you're confused. You're like, who can get a bracket wrong? It's March Madness time. We all know how brackets work, right? Well, let's go look into the details a little bit closer. So here is the bracket for event number 4, and I'm not even joking. This is seeded with their perfect seeding formula according to GU Stakes, that they have all the mathematical scientists concoct this in some sort of lab, and this is what it spit out. Let's look deeper into what it spit out. You see here we have the number 1 seed Clutch, and like, I'm not even going to argue with that. Okay, you want to put Clutch 1? I'm cool with that. Like, cool. I had him in my top 5. It's fine. It's fine. But you have him in the round of 128. Keep in mind, there's 223 entrants. So some people did get a round 1 bye. Most did not. But for instance, number 1 seed Clutch did get a first round bye. His round of 128 matchup will be against either the 34 or 35 seed Professor. And if you're wondering how the math works there, I don't know. Typically, in a 256 player event, the 1 seed would either face the 128 or 129 seed, whoever wins that matchup. This makes absolutely no sense. They're facing a very tough competitor, Nada Molly, who's been in the game forever, and Professor, who's on TST, in round of 128. There's no baby seals for this 1 seed to clobber for sure. And then you look down at the bracket and you notice, well, he's not very far in the bracket from Sambam. In fact, Clutch and Sam Bam would meet in the round of 32. But if you want to know what's ridiculous for Sam Bam finished second in event number 1. He could have a rematch with Grapefruit Crush if they win their round 1 match against Falcon. Like, no joke. Grapefruit Crush won event number 1 and then could face Sam Bam in the round of 128 in event number 4 with the scientific seeding method. None of this makes sense. I mean, we're looking at a round of 64 match with the 2 and the 3 seed. I don't know how they got the 3 seed, but let's just assume that seeding is somewhat scientific. I don't know. Devoted, Mirage, Reasonable, 4 boxes. We've all been there. All been there for sure. And then here I'm 7. Close to Squidward here. I'm sure Squid's going to be very happy if we meet again. He has very fond memories of facing me in tournaments. But anyways, let's go ahead, get some exercise here. Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, UI unfriendly. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the bracket, and this is so this is so bad. I'm not intentionally doing this either. This is bad. All right, but let's get to the bottom. Let's get to the bottom of the bracket. Let's get there. We're going to get there. I promise, chat. Oh, don't leave me. Don't leave me. We're trying. And we're almost there. I promise. We're almost there. I have to, there we go. We got there, chat. We made it to the bottom. That wasn't difficult at all. But anyways, here's the bottom of the bracket. Here's what I want to point out. Where are all the low seeds? Well, they just sequentially seed the bracket. 206, 207, 208, 209, 210, 211, 212. Like, this isn't how you design a bracket at all. This is not how you do it. In fact, if you were to organize a bracket and say how you do not do things, this is how you would exactly do it. Furthermore, the seeding doesn't make any sense. Like, we're not even going to care about this. But for instance, TCG Alien is facing 218 versus 219 winner. And D-Boom here. D-Boom seeded 222nd out of 223 people. He finished second in event number 1 and is seeded 222. Oh, no, second event number 2. I'm sorry. Event number 2. He seeded 222 out of 223 people. He finished second in event number 2. Seeding is a little bit sus here. A little bit sus. Let's try to dive into this a little bit more to see if we can make some sense into this. Alright, so this is a first in FakeMews, Fox News media investigations, but the bracket has changed while I was making a video complaining about said bracket setup. They have altered the bracket. I'm going to talk about the alteration of the black bracket, why it's still wrong. And they also shouldn't have changed the bracket after the tournament had started. This is more of a, in case of future tournaments, consider this stuff moving forward type of thing. So I've heard a lot of people complain that my seed isn't right. I have this much MMR. My seed is like this person who's like in Twilight Shadow. And then there was a discussion on GU Stakes where Sully mentioned that players in Twilight Shadow could actually be better than players in Mythic. And then I'm just sitting here rolling your eyes. Okay, I'm gonna end this for all of you. The seeding is inaccurate in terms of number, but not 100% incorrect on who you should play. Did that statement leave you confused? Yes, it did. So I'll go ahead and talk about what has happened. So, what has happened is the bracket has changed. I brought up stuff like, hey, Clutch shouldn't play Squid and shouldn't play Sam Bam until the Elite 8. And then he made the change. The awkward thing is, you shouldn't be changing the bracket mid-tournament. But anyways, but the main point here is the bracket numbering are deceiving. For instance, it says 1 is Clutch and 2 is Squid, when in actuality number 8 was Squid on the original bracket. So this is the 1 and the 8, this is the 9, so the 8 and the 9 meet here. Bracket-wise, this is actually correct because of the way they made the bracket. So the way they made the bracket was in 4 different regions. Hi, this is a fake news edit. So the previous message was a little bit inaccurate, so we're going to deliver it correctly with the correction. Anyways, this bracket was set up into 4 different regions. 9 buys were given in the USA division, and 8 buys each were given in the other regions. So that's how the bracket was set up. Now back to your original broadcast that was shot correctly the first time around, except it was shot incorrectly. Yeah, I don't want to refilm everything. Bye, everybody. People with a bye. So the people with a bye in the USA region, number 1 seed Clutch, scroll down, number 2 seed Sam Bam, number 3 seed Siphon, number 4 seed Devoted, 5 seed Mirage, 6 seed is somebody, I don't know. But anyways, 6 seed is somebody, and then 7 seed was me, and then 8 seed was Squid, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the participants. We can look at the ratings. So here, we're only looking at the US bracket segment for now. Just want to point that out for now. Here, you see here, and yeah, Squid is the 8. It's just very deceiving because this is being seeded by GU Stakes rating, or most of it is. It's not all GU Stakes rating. I'll point that out a little bit here. So there's Caution Funds there, Devoted, Mirage, Sam Bam, me, Siphon, and then it was this dude. It was 4 Boxes was ahead of me. I always forget about 4 Boxes, but he exists. And as mentioned prior, Lexington is the number 1 overall seed by GU Stakes rating, but he does kick off another region, the European region. So, you might be like, okay, well, those are the top 9 seeds of the bracket. They're the ones that deserve the bye, correct? No, they're not the top 9, though. Let's look at this here. So, if you look at the bracket, I'll bring up the bracket here, and I'll go to my bracket segment. So my bracket segment here, I face the winner of Aldos versus that person, in-game faces Boxes, and then there. So this is all the US bracket segment. We're all still in the United States with this bracket segment. This is important to note because in-game right here has an 1812.3 GU Stakes rating. Again, this is only about GU Stakes rating because that's what was seeded by. You see him playing this person in the next round. You're like, how is 63 ranked above him? Well, effectively not. It's not that way. It's just very deceiving seeding. In-game is the favored seed in this matchup, despite the fact that GU Stakes doesn't know how to do anything except sequential numbering. But the reason why I bring up in-game here is he's in the US bracket region, but let's look at the buys. Remember, the 9th buy was actually Caution Fun. But let's go ahead and look at Caution Fun's rating. 1812 for in-game, go all the way back up to Caution Fun 1775. So technically, Caution Fun was given favorable treatment here. He should not have gotten a first round bye, though maybe he gets a bump for being one of the spokespersons for GU Stakes. Insert your conspiracy theory here. So that's very, very odd, and definitely in-game should have been ranked higher there. So what happened here is there's like some of these that are seeded by GU Stakes rating, and then I think some of them were seeded by gut. But this wasn't made clear in any of the instructions at all. It was not made clear in any way at all. Now, the rest of these are, by my data, in the top 8. So everyone else has a higher GU Stakes rating than in-game, but then for some reason Caution Fun got the 9th bye. It looks very, very weird. Now, you might be wondering, well, in other bracket regions, is this going to be true as well? So, let's look at Europe, for instance. Europe has Lexington at 10, and then Cape Pen. So, we're seeing here, we're going by GU Stakes rating. So, best GU Stakes rating, and this is going to be the 8th seed, roughly, Cape Pen, because of the way they ordered it. So, 1853 is a number to think of. And then we count out 8 participants. So bam, 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 bam. And then okay, we're getting into the next region. But now look at this. We got a 1376 in here. how did this Ragnar person get in here? Well, let's look at the bracket, shall we? So if we look at the bracket, we're going to go down here, and we are going to see, all right, Ragnar, number 19. He got a first round bye. Now let's go ahead and look at some of these in the 134 through 139 range. So we're going to go down here. Keep in mind, this is a 1376 MMR. So we're going to go down to 134 to 139 range. Just wanting to prove a point here. So what we see here, immediately we see seed number 136, 1456 GU Stakes MMR rating. I'm not saying it's scientific. I'm just saying that if you're giving out buys for based on rating, giving Ragnar the 19th, they're in the same bracket region, then Young Greases should be ranked higher than Ragnar. Just completely obvious. So just saying that they went through all this effort to seed things by region, and the thing is about these individual matchups, like setting up the round of 128 actually isn't that inaccurate. So the way things work is the US region in particular is very spicy, so Clutch facing the winner of Not a Molly Professor isn't incorrect according to the GU Stakes ratings. Now, you could say that the GU Stakes ratings of both of these contestants might be a little bit inaccurate, and I won't argue with you. But based on the GU Stakes rating, it isn't inaccurate. But what we're seeing here is we're seeing players get seated where they shouldn't be. It's also really hard to follow where the seating should be because it's very non-transparent. I'm just kind of glancing at this and picking out things that I know are incorrect and then stopping there. But I think if we dug a little bit deeper, you could almost argue the entire bracket is probably incorrect. Though I can't prove this because the GU Stakes ratings are like the same. So that's the things I wanted to point out is incorrect players getting buys, the seeding very non-transparent. So you're going to see here, as mentioned prior, at the bottom of the bracket, we have, this is a nightmare to navigate. Yeah, but we're gonna have at the bottom of the bracket, we're gonna have D-Boom, okay? But I'm gonna show you why D-Boom's seeding isn't as bad as you think. So D-Boom is right here, but if you go to the bottom here and look at D-Boom's GU Stakes rating, so D-Boom GU Stakes rating 1364. Like that's not really bad at all, right? And he's facing somebody who's like 900 and something. So his GU Stakes rating isn't as bad as the number itself recommends. Though when people look at the tournament bracket, they see themselves seeded 222 out of 223 people, and they're like, hey, I need some respect. I got second place in one of the other prior events. I mean, I kind of agree with them. So the bracket is organized and laid out in a really bad way. The round of 128... the round of 256 and the round of 128 actually are not as inaccurate as they look. It's seeded by time zone, but within that, it's in the realm of decency. I don't think it's precise. It's more like somebody tried to do these by hand and then manually put this together, and there's some glaring inconsistencies, but nothing that's like drastic jumps out at you. And they did recently update the bracket so that the 1 and the actual 2 aren't near each other. Though that being said, when they updated the bracket, you still have 1 and then you still have 2 here. It's just in reality, Squid is the 8. And Caution Fun is 9. Though Caution Fun shouldn't have been 9 in the first place. I hope you're following this chat. I'm trying my best here. But this is gonna sum up GU Stakes. I'm just gonna leave this as it is. We're just going to play the tournament. I hope that for the big finale and for future events, they look into this a little bit more, be a little bit more precise, be a little bit more transparent. One idea is if you have region brackets, so let's say 4 separate regions, have 4 separate brackets, and then on finale night, the winner of those 4 brackets merge and play each other. That's one way of doing it. If you could like set it up in even segments of 64. That would be one way of doing it. That would require a lot of manual work, and is it worth? Probably not. But just an idea for the future. It would be a lot less confusing than the current bracket setup. I have looked into this. I think I somewhat understand it, but I can't comprehend it well enough to explain it to people. And one thing I noticed in the Coliseum chat was with Sully. He was arguing with a lot of people because, I mean, this is kind of his baby and he is very passionate about this, and some people were very upset about where they were seating. But I had a feeling that Sully didn't know how to articulate what was being done here as well. I think he knew that there was some effort being put into this, and I mean, obviously a lot of effort was put into this. It just wasn't correct effort, and he didn't like the complaints. So anyways, I'm not sure I explained it very accurately, but here you go. Let's move on to community gaming next. Now let's talk about community gaming. So some of you are familiar with community gaming from the Battle for the Light events. They ran Swiss events for Europe and the non-European regions. And the Europe region didn't have too much controversy, though there were some inaccuracies in the tiebreaks. Nobody cares, okay? Nobody cares. It went very calmly. We're happy, right? The North America region, not as much. A refresher for those of you who are forgetting about the controversy. The 6 rounds were played. The final 8 was originally determined. Caution Fun was the number 8 seed. The next day, they reverse a matchup from one round, one match, from a loss from one player to a win for one player. This impacted the tiebreaks, and their system said that H-Pain had the 8th best record. Now, H-Pain goes on to the playoffs and wins the tournament. It's typically how these things go. But anyways, why are we bringing this up, you ask? Well, one thing I want to point out is I did a lot of investigation related to that piece, that scandal, you could say, and found that Community Gaming had inaccurate representation of their own tiebreaks. Meaning that they didn't calculate their own tiebreaks correctly, they rounded to the nearest hundredth. And while that doesn't seem like a big deal, when you do that over and over again, over multiple times, it does add up and did actually change the tiebreak results. So, if the tiebreaks were calculated correctly by Community Gaming, Infrapool would have been in the top 8, not Caution Fun, not H-Pain. Also, they shouldn't be changing results after round 1 results after round 6. That's another obvious thing. You don't go back and change results because the cumulative impact of the event, the fact that every event was seeded based on the current standings and all that stuff applies. But what I'm going to be talking about today is, one, they have not changed their tiebreak method. It's interesting. I brought this to them the first time, and Community Gaming's like, oh, we apologize. We'll do better last time. We're going to correct our tiebreak system. It's now going to not round, and it still does. I have the data in front of me. I can tell you right now that this could be very controversial in the X-Board tournament within Wednesday. Wednesday will be the cutoff date. My tiebreakers are horrendous, so I'm not going to be in any tiebreaker scenarios, but other people who actually have good tiebreaks could be in some scenarios. And I'm also going to discuss with you, while having good tiebreaks might not be a good thing, and you're probably confused. And that's how I like it. So next we're going to be talking about Community Gaming. So what they do here in their tournaments is they do sequential pairing. What does that mean? Well, that means every round in a Swiss event, the 1 seed plays the 2 seed, the 3 seed plays the 4 seed, the 5 seed plays the 6 seed, regardless of the scores. Now, this might sound very weird to those who have played Swiss events in basically any other game ever to exist. And I'm going to show you why this is actually a flawed system. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a sample chess tournament that isn't real, but hey, we can pretend, right? We can pretend. So, what we have here is a sample chess tournament. We've got Magnus Carlsen, Nepo, Hikaru, Hans, FakeMews, Pokimane, Amaranth, and an actual IRL baby seal. Like an actual seal that can perform tricks and everything. So, if you were seeding the tournament correctly and pairing based on seeding, number 1 Magnus should face me, number 2 Nepo should face Pokimane, 3 Hikaru Amaranth, and 4 Hans IRL Baby Seal. There will be no upsets in any of those games, then they would all be rather uninteresting. However, hypothetically, if you use community gaming pairings, what happens? Well, community gaming would say, well, number 1 plays 2, so Magnus would play Nepo, Hikaru would play Hans here, FakeMews would play Pokimane, and Amaranth would play IRL Baby Seal. So assuming that all the favorites win, Magnus, Hikaru, FakeMews, and Amaranth over the Baby Seal, then we go ahead and advance to round 2. So after round 2, Magnus, Hikaru each have 1 point, me and Amaranth each have 1 point, Nepo and Hans each are scoreless, and so are Pokimane and IRL Baby Seal. They'll continue pairing by this flawed metric. And what happens here? Well, Magnus and Hikaru, they play a symmetrical bomb cloud draw. I beat Amaranth, Nepo beats Hans, and Pokimane agrees to a draw with a Baby Seal because the Baby Seal performed a really cool trick. So, what happens when you have messed up pairings? Well, the end result, it proves that I am better at chess than Magnus and Hikaru and Nepo and Hans. And everyone's actually better than Hans, including an IRL Baby Seal. So, that's what incorrect pairings can actually look like. This example is very dramatic and overly dramatic, but I'm just showing you the flawed nature of their pairing system. And you could actually expand this out over to a wider range of entrants and rounds. So for instance, if you have a 256 player field and you have it seeded, community gaming would have the number 255 play the 256, and the winner of the 253-254 match playing the winner of that. You can see how it's going to take a little bit of time for the cream to rise to the top in that scenario. So it's just an example, but this is why community gaming is flawed. And the fact that they haven't changed their Swiss system yet shows me that they don't really listen. I mean, I personally brought up stuff after the Battle for the Light event about things they need to fix, and they ignored all of them. The tie-breaking system is still flawed, and they're still playing Swiss events. If any tournament organizer here thinking about running an event on community gaming, don't make it Swiss. I love Swiss events, but community gaming is incapable of running a Swiss event correct. And you could end up with situations like me being better than Magnus, which is, I mean, it's a false statement, but I mean, with the community gaming Swiss system, anything is possible. This is going to be it for my rant on today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button and then subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, unsubscribe and subscribe again, or don't do that. Your choice either way. But anyways, the whole point here is we need to learn as a community, if we're going to be running tournaments, especially as they get into more high stakes, just the basic tournament structures. I mean, this is everything I said in this video should be obvious to anyone who has participated in many tournaments in their life throughout many games. I mean, everything is like elementary tournaments 101 in this video. Nothing is super complicated. However, I keep seeing obvious, unnecessary mistakes being made, and I figured it was time that somebody called out the obvious mistakes being made. Hopefully moving forward, things will continue, and until the next video, we'll see when the next controversy runs around. Bye, everybody!